My name is Mike Panaki. I'm owner of a company called Network Protocol Specialists here in Seattle, Washington. For the last 10 years, we have been delivering these Fluke Networks CCTT program. Okay, that's our cable test technician program. And so the idea here is that it certifies people on how to use the Versiv line of equipment. So in the training, we covered the DSX 5000 and 8000. So the first day, day one, we cover copper. We go through copper technology. We talk about what it is that we need to test in copper. We talk about how to set up the analyzer to go in and certify a copper link. After we talk about how to set it up and running a test, then we go through what the results are. So we take a look at all of the different performance parameters of that cable. We talk about why those are important. After that, we get into the troubleshooting part of it. And it's there that we take a look at how to use the HD TDR and the HD TDX features of those analyzers. And this allows us to go in, and if we have problems with near-end crosstalk or return loss, this allows us to look down the cable and really get a good idea of what could be causing the problem and where that problem is. And so what we found is by learning how to use the analyzer properly, that you're able to reduce the amount of time it takes to set up projects, your testing goes faster, and most importantly, you run into fewer mistakes when you get out there in the field. Because nothing is worse than having set something up wrong, run a whole bunch of tests, and then find out that you could have set it up right from the beginning and you wouldn't have had those problems. Okay? So what I want to do in starting out with this is I'm going to have a little bit more to talk about on the program, and then we're going to get into Link Live. But even before that, what I want to do is I want to show you how you can remote into one of the testers I have here. And this is one of the keys with the online training, is that oftentimes with online training, you know, I'm talking, you're listening, we're going through PowerPoint slides. But with this training, what we've done is we've set it up so that you can remote into a Versiv unit here in the office. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the chat window, and let's see, we're going to copy, we're going to paste. All right. So what I did was I put a user ID and password in there and a website. So if you come out here to Guacamole and you put in CCTT1, we put in CCTT demo. Uh-oh. Let me correct that password right there. I thought I had it caps. Let's use it all lowercase. So what's going to happen is if you go out there to that URL and you put in that user ID and you put in CCTT demo all lowercase, what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to log in to one of the testers I have here. So you're going to see a list of Versivs. And what you can do is you can click on one of those Versivs. If somebody else is using it, it's going to say in use. But you can grab one of those Versivs and come in there, and this allows you to connect in. So I see right now somebody's connected into Versiv 72. So what this is a wall of Versivs I have over here. So while we're doing the training, it makes it really easy for people to remote in and go through the training and click on it. Now, if you have your own tester, this is something you could do right there on your own tester. However, if you don't have your own tester, you're waiting to get it, it's out in the field, you can't use it, at least this way, you can come in and click on that and be able to remote in. Okay, so kind of a handy little feature there of the Versiv. In fact, we're going to come over and I'm going to grab mine right here. And what I like about this is this allows me to come in and bring my Versiv up on the screen as well. So now that I've given you that login information and you can connect in, I'm going to talk mention a few more things. And that is, as part of the CCTT program, what we do is we do a day of training. And then at the end of that day of training, we send you a link for an online test. And that's a 25-question test. You need to get 70% or better on that test to pass. Now, if you pass the test, you're now a certified cable test technician. And we send out, as part of the training, a nice little pen here. In fact, let me switch my cameras over. So as part of the training, we send the books out. You get this nice pen. One of the things that's kind of neat about the pen is we got this little stylus on the end there. It makes using the tester, especially with gloves on, really nice, because now I can come in and I can just use that as a way to tap on the screen, and I don't have to touch it with my finger. So again, got a glove on or something, makes it easy to use. Also, let me grab one here. You get these little stickers. And so the sticker says, hey, you're a certified cable test technician right there. It's got the year on it. And you can even take that and put that on your hard hat. So in that way, everybody knows you're a certified cable test technician. All right. So with that said, let's go in. And day one, I talked about day one. Day one is copper. Day two is fiber. And in day two, we go through tier 1 and tier 2 testing. So with tier 1, that is our OLTS testing. That's where we're looking at loss and length. So we go through fiber technology. We talk about how to set up the CertiFiber Pro, why we would use a application-based standard, why we would set up a test limit, why we would go in and use a custom test limit. Then after that, we go into tier 2, which is OTDR, or the OptiFiber Pro. So we get into what does an OTDR do? How do we set up an OTDR, auto OTDR versus manual OTDR? And then we talk about Smart Loop. And Smart Loop is a system, is a test that we can do with the OptiFiber Pro, where it allows us to do OTDR testing from one end of the fiber. So I don't have to move the OTDR to the other end of my fiber connection to do bidirectional averaging of that fiber, which is really good if I have any differences in backscatter, if I am trying to troubleshoot problems where people have used different core diameters, things like that. So those are the 2 days of training. After you pass the test, you get a certificate. And if you present that certificate to Bixby, you get 7 Bixby credits for each day. So that is the class. I'll put up a link at the end, and then I'll send one out in the email to the website. You can take a look and see when the classes are available. Right now, our July copper class just filled up. There's a few seats left in the copper class filled up. There's a few seats left in the fiber class. And we've got both an East Coast and a West Coast class going on in August. And so if you want to go out and check those dates, those are still open. Good to sign up, get a seat while seats are available. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is Linkware Live. So I'm going to bring my screen up. We're going to share that. So when we go in to our tester, we can go in and set up a test. In fact, if I come in here, let me grab my tester right here. And we'll window that a little bit, or maybe not. There we go. Grab my tester, we'll bring that over here. Here's my CertiFiber Pro. So if I wanted to come in and set up a test, let's say I'm testing for 10G base SR. I could come in and I could go into my test and I could say, you know what? I want to create a new test. And so I could say, I want to create a new test. And right now it's detecting that I've got the CertiFiber Pro quad module in there. I've got a smart remote, and I could set my fiber type. So I could say, you know what? I am using OM4, 50 micron fiber. And I could come down here to my test limit. And in my test limit, I could say, you know what? I'm going to do 10G base SR. So we're going to go back. Actually, I'm going to select that right there. And I could select that, and we've got our test method set to 1 jumper reference, and we've got this all set up. So I could go in and use this as a way to set up a test. That's fine. But let's say that I have a project that I'm doing where I'm going to be doing this test on a number of testers, and I want to make sure that everybody is doing the test exactly the same way. One of the ways that we can assure that that's going to happen right is if I come in here and I go into Linkware Live. Now, Linkware Live is a free service that you can use with your Versiv. You don't have to pay for this service. All you have to do is sign up. So if I come in here and I log in. So what I've done is I've gone in, I'm the administrator for this, and I've got a number of projects out here. So what we find is that we can take projects that we've created on our Versiv and upload those to Linkware Live. We can also take projects that we've created in Linkware Live and download those to our Versiv. So how do we do that? Well, one of the things that we need to do is to start with, we need to get set up with Linkware Live. The other thing is we need to get our Versiv connected to the internet. So there's a couple of ways we can do that. So if we come over here and we were to take a look at our Versiv, what we find is the way number one is the way I've got it set up. I just have an Ethernet cable plugged in here. And last week when we did our session, we looked at how we can use this as kind of a quick and easy way to go in and make sure that we've got a good Ethernet connection. We can plug it in there. All I did was plug my Versiv in there. And if you're connected into one of the Versivs here in the classroom, you can go into Tools. And in fact, let me bring this up on my screen right here. You can go into Tools and you can go into Network. And what this is going to do is it's going to show you what your network address is right there. So I can see what the IP address of my tester is using that feature right there. The other way I can connect up is I can use a wireless adapter. I got this tiny little wireless adapter there. This is a TP-Link N150. And in fact, what I'll do is in the email that goes out, I will include a link to where you can get this. I went out yesterday for the class and took a look. Right now, these are about $7.99 on Amazon. So I can take and plug this TP-Link N150 adapter into my Versiv, and I can connect it to a wireless network. And one of the ways that we'll do that out in the field is I'll take and turn on the hotspot on my phone. Once I turn the hotspot on my phone, I can connect the Versiv to my phone. Now, there's some real advantages here, and that is if I have a Linkware Live account set up and I log into it, and there's a new version of firmware out there, which there happens to be, and that's version 6.2, build 1 right now. It's the latest version. What will happen is a message will come up and say, hey, there's a new version out there. Do you want to upgrade? It will download that new version and upgrade your mainframe. You can then connect the mainframe to the remote with a USB cable and upgrade that, and you're done. You don't have to go out and download it from the Fluke site, open up Linkware PC, connect it via the USB cable, and download it that way. It's a really easy way to go in and update that. But once we're connected out there, we can go in and we can connect to Linkware Live with our Versiv. So let's go through this. I'm going to come in here, and I have some projects set up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to say, I want to create a new project. We'll click on that. So now it says, what's the project name? We'll say June 27th demo. And the customer, we'll say NPS. That's me. Location, we'll say Maple Valley. Description, demo project. And we could set a start and end date on there. So I'm going to say add this new project. Now, you see that this is easier than typing on the screen. In fact, it's really nice because I could be sitting in my office, I could be sitting at a coffee shop, I could be sitting anywhere where I have internet access, and I can get into this web browser, and I can come in here. And now I can come down here, I can say select my media type. And I'm going to say we're going to do fiber. Okay? So now it says, what is the cable type? And this is one of those things that we spend a fair amount of time in class talking about, is the importance of selecting the right cable type. If you select the wrong cable type right here, it will have repercussions all the way down through your testing that you cannot recover from without retesting. So it is very important that when I'm going in and setting these tests up, that I know what it is I need to test. So in this case, I'm going to say that I'm going to choose, well, let's say OM. How about OM4? So I just typed in OM4. I brought that up. I could give this configuration a name. So I'll call it June 27 demo. So now I can say, what test do I want to run on this cable? Well, today we are going to do loss and length, and we're going to run that. And we could do fiber inspector if we wanted to, but for right now, we're going to do loss and length. So now I can come over here to my loss and length test setup. I can say, what limit do I want? So I'm going to say 10G. So I'm going to do application 10G base SR. Test type smart remote. Now this could be smart remote. This could be far end source. This could be loop back. In this case, we're going to use a smart remote. Then that takes me to my reference method, which is going to be one jumper. If you want to know why, join us for our class. We'll go through why it is so important that you use the one jumper method. Now, somebody asked if I could send them the recording of this. Absolutely. So an email is going to go out tomorrow. It's going to have a recording of this class or this little segment here, so you can go back and watch it as many times as you want. I put in my connector type, and we go over why that connector type, what that connector type makes different, when it makes a difference beyond just documentation. Number of connectors, in this case, we've got 2 connectors, no splices. Okay, so what I've done is I've set up this test, and I'm going to say next. And so now I need to set up some cable IDs. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can say, for my cable IDs, I'm going to go in here and I'll say, I don't know, AL20 AL.D01. And you notice that it copies that over for me. And this is just like on the Versiv. Actually, I'm going to say A, because we're working with fiber. And we're going to make this okay. So we're going to do everything between 20 ALD0 or D01A through ALD12B. I'll say next. All right. So we've got those. It tells us how many have passed, how many have failed. We've got that information up there. So now what we do is we come over to the Versiv. Now, if you want to try this out and you're connected to the Versiv, see, I use the scroll wheel on my mouse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a user ID and password here. All right, so that is a user ID and password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in here. And this is kind of tricky when we're using this remotely. I found that it's always best to at least type that first letter with the keyboard on the screen. What I'm going to do, so I'm going to copy that email I just put out there in there. Oh, it's not going to let me do it. And I'm going to come down here, I'm going to put in my password of Linkware demo _27. So if you're connected to one of my Versivs and you want to try this out, you can do this. If you want to try it with your Versiv, you certainly could as well. But in this case, what we're doing is I'm putting in this email address and this password. I'm going to hit sign in. So what's happening is my Versiv is using the internet to connect to Linkware Live. And it says, you are connected to Mike's organization. Well, that's great. So I'm connected. So I'm going to come back here And I'm going to go back to my home screen. I'm going to go to my projects. And I could say change project. What we see is all we have is the default project right here. So now we've got this tester out in the field, and we've told the technician out in the field, I want you to log in using your ID to get into Linkware Live. So then they log in, they go to project, they go to transfer. Now we could transfer a project off of a USB drive, and that's a pretty common way to do it. I could build a project on one Versiv, then transfer it to others. But in this case, we're going to say Linkware Live. So it's going to go out and it's going to look at all the projects out there. And we see that right here in Mike's organization, we have the June 27th demo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to sync that demo. So now I say sync. So it has now synchronized that project from Linkware Live onto my Versiv. So now if I come out to project and I say change project, we see that we have both our default and we have June 27th demo. So I'm going to click on that project. There are my cable IDs. There's my test setup. So I set it up on the web page and I downloaded it to my Versiv. So now I've gone in on my Versiv and I had set up my reference. So I'm going to say, let's go ahead and run a test. All right. Woohoo! Always like to see that. So I ran the test. Everything looked good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And it's going to save it to my first pair of fiber. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn auto save on in this case. And then I'm going to hit test again. I move to the next pair of fiber. I hit test. It auto saves the result. I move to the next pair of fiber. That auto save saves a tremendous amount of time because now I'm just moving from one to the next, making sure that I inspect and clean the fiber as I'm going along, because nothing will ruin the end faces faster on your test reference cords than not making sure everything's clean. Also, if you're not making sure things are clean, you're going to get inconsistent test results. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through here and I'm going to do a few tests, and I'm going to come over and just move something here real quick. Okay, we're going to run the test again. So we're passing, everything's looking good. So in this case, we did pass. And our loss right there was a lot higher, but because of my test limit, it wasn't high enough. So let's see if we can make it high enough. We'll put just a little bit more of an air gap in there. We'll get one to fail here. Oh, there we go. 15.26 dB. That's a bad one. So now in this case, I could say test again, or I could say I just want to keep going, right? So what's happened is I don't want to test again. So I can just keep moving on. And in this case, you know, we could come in, we could see, you know, what happened in there. All right. So now I'm going to come back out to my home screen. We're going to look at our test results. Okay, what we see is that we've got our retest needed right here. We've got all of our tests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in to transfer. And I'm going to say I want to transfer that to Linkware Live. So now I've been going through and testing links. So I want to upload this to Linkware Live, and I want to synchronize my June 27th demo. So I'm going to hit sync. It's going to synchronize that, and it's going to export my test results. So we'll say OK. So now, if I come over here and I refresh my screen, what we see is it tells me that I'm 67% done with my testing, that I've had 15 passes and 1 fail. Okay, it tells me how many are untested. So we're going to go back in to our tester. So I've uploaded my test results. We're going to go back out to my tester. We're going to take this failure right here, and I've fixed it. I figured out what was wrong. The connector was loose. I want to fix that. So I'm going to hit test again. So now it's going to go in, it's going to retest it, it's going to show me it passed. So I'm going to hit save. Now what it does is you notice it only puts in the input fiber on the mainframe. And that's because that's the only fiber we cared about. Now, if that fiber was actually connected to the output, we could rotate those, but it will just save 1 fiber because we've already tested the other fiber and it passed. Now it says, do you want to save this result? Yes. And it brings that up because it's going to overwrite that existing result. Now what I want to show you on here is if I go back to my home screen and I go to my results, everything shows up as passes. So I'm going to do my transfer. I'm going to transfer to Linkware Live. I'm going to synchronize that project. Give it a second there. I just want to show you what that looks like. And this is where if we want to track our failures, what works really nice is we can go in and we can save it before we fix things. Now, when I swing over here and I refresh this, what we see is everything shows up as passes. So if I come in and look at my test results right here, okay, what we see is that for 20ALD7A, it shows a 2 right next to it. So if I click on it, it shows that our loss and length passed right there. But if we look at this test record right here, it shows it failed. So now it will keep separate test records in there for each of our passes and fails. Each time we run it, we overwrite that. Now that record gets overwritten on the Versiv. So if you didn't upload it to Linkware Live, that information is gone. So it just depends on how you want to run things. So what I can do is I've come in, I've got my project, I've got all my information in here, shows me I'm 67% done. So if we go back and I go to my June 27th project, I can now say I want to generate my report. So there are a lot of things we can do in here, and we just don't have time in this short little session to cover everything possible. However, what I wanted to show you was that if I come in here, let's move that out of the way, and I bring up my email, it sent me an email and it said, Mike, your report's ready. So I'm going to download my report. At the beginning, Linkware Live was like a USB stick in the cloud. I could transfer results up there and I could use Linkware PC to grab them. That is not the case anymore. What we find is that we can do a lot of what we need to do with Linkware Live right from here. So in this case, I've done my report. It says all standards have been met. I come in, there are all of my cables. It shows me which ones passed, which ones failed. I can see what the total length of cable is, the number of reports, and now I can start coming in here for each one of these, and I can take a look at the results. And what it does is it tells me right here it passed. I can see for this link, the cable type I had. I can see the modal bandwidth of that cable. I can see the length, how long was that? And I can see what the compliance standards are in here. Okay. So that gives me a nice overview. Now, if I came back out to Linkware Live, oh, all right. So this gives us a way we can come in, we can see all that information. So I want to be respectful of your time. And I said that this would be a 30-minute demo that we would do, and it is 8:31. So I want to thank everyone for joining on. This was a quick little demo of what you can do with Linkware Live. Go out, set up an account if you don't have one, set up your equipment. One of the real neat things is with our assets, it will go in and track our assets for us, tell us where those assets have been, where they are, keeps track of our serial numbers, all kinds of good information in there. If I click on my remote, it shows me roughly where that is. So it's a great way of keeping track of your equipment, what you have out there, and don't rely on everybody to enter those projects in properly. Set the project up in Linkware Live and push it out. Make sure you get the good, consistent results, get those test results back, see where things are at, see if you have failures, who's failing, and make sure those projects run smooth. All right, my name is Mike Panacki. Love to see you in one of our classes. Thanks for joining me.